Hare Krishna everyone, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is the auspicious disappearance day of Srila Gaur Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj. So today we will be reading about his pastimes and glories. So we will start with his pranam mantra. So Gaur Kishor Das Babaji, he lived from about the 1830s to approximately the 1915. So now let's recite his pranam mantra. Wherever you are, you can recite it with me. Namo Gaur Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. We'll recite it one more time. Namo Gaur Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Gaur Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, who is renunciation personified. He is always merged in a feeling of separation and intense love of Krishna. So now we'll begin his pastimes and glories. Leaving for Vrindavan. Gaur Kishor Das Babaji was born in a Vaishya family in East Bengal. As a grihastha, he bought and sold grains. He was a very simple person with no education and could not even read or write. When his wife died, he left his village and walked all the way to Vrindavan, a difficult journey covering hundreds of miles. In Vrindavan, he wandered the forests for some time before settling down in Vaishnava, the birthplace of Srimati Radharani. There, he would collect flowers every day and make beautiful garlands for Radha and Krishna. After 6 years, he left Vaishnava and again wandered through the forests of Vrindavan. All in all, Gaur Kishor lived in Vrindavan for 30 years. Moving to Navadvip. One day, Radha and Krishna appeared to him in a dream and instructed him to go to Navadvip Dham. There he went and lived on the bank of the Ganges in a small hut of grass and banana leaves. Later on, he renounced even that and simply lived on the bank of the river, chanting the holy name on knotted cloth. If it was raining, he would take shelter under the upturned boats. He took initiation from Bhagavat Das Babaji, a disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji. His renunciation. Gaur Kishor Das Babaji was incredibly renounced. For clothing, he used to take garments from corpse at the crematorium. He would take the clothes of dead people. He wore nothing but a simple cloth. For food, he begged a little rice and soaked it in Ganges water. He did not even boil it. Gaur Kishor had no interest in this material world, but was absorbed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead, enthusiastic to always chant the Lord's holy names. In his ecstasy, he sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, and sometimes walked around like a madman. Gaur Kishor never forgot Krishna for even a single moment, and therefore was respected as an Uttama Adhikari, which means a topmost devotee of the Lord. His preaching. Gaur Kishor Das Babaji seldom preached, but was very direct when he did. Once a pious and generous Vaishnava king wanted Gaur Kishor to come and live in his palace. He sent a messenger to invite him. Gaur Kishor was moved by the king's invitation, but sent back this message: I do not want to go, because living in such a rich palace, I would grow to like it too much and become envious. Better you give up your kingdom and wealth and join me on the banks of the Ganges. I will build you a nice shack like my own, and together we can live peacefully, chanting the holy names of the Lord. Quite expectedly, he never heard from the king again. His truthfulness. Gaur Kishor always spoke the truth very directly. He did not care what materialistic people thought, because he was not dependent on them. Many people would come to get his blessings, but would become offended as he spoke the truth. He saw that most of them were insincere. Out of compassion, he gave them good advice, but few would accept it. The Babaji did not care. He had no need for their company, for he had Lord Krishna as his dearmost friend and needed no one else. The disappearance day of Sanatan Goswami. Gaur Kishor once told his servant, "Tomorrow is the disappearance of Sanatan Goswami, and so we are going to feast." The boy was startled and asked him, "How are we going to collect for such a feast?" Gaur Kishor answered him, "We are not going to have a feast like that. We are going to fast and sit and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra throughout the entire day. This is the best feast day for poor people like us." A new place to stay. In Navadvip lived a pious man and his good wife. They owned a popular guest house. They were very fond of Gaur Kishor and once offered to build him a bhajan kutir, a simple dwelling. There, undisturbed by others, he could perform his worship of the Supreme Lord. He explained to them, "I'm not really interested in that, but maybe you can help me in another way." The couple, who would do anything for him, asked what he needed. Gaur Kishor responded, "I am disturbed by the many insincere devotees constantly hanging around me. They are not actually interested in spiritual life, but only in making a big show and getting money." He continued, "It would be a great help if you would allow me to stay in the toilet of your guest house. It is easier for me to tolerate the bad smell than to tolerate insincere materialistic devotees. And surely the smell would also keep them away." The couple were very surprised by his request, but they wanted to serve him. So therefore, they very nicely cleaned up the narrow toilet of the guest house, and Gaur Kishor moved in. Just imagine his renunciation. Like he was so pure that he didn't mind staying in the toilet as long as no insincere people come and trouble him. His friendship with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Gaur Kishor was a great friend of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though their personalities were so very different. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a vastly learned scholar and held a high position in the government. Gaur Kishor could neither read nor write. Bhaktivinoda lived in a large house in Godrum, and Gaur Kishor the public toilet of a guest house. One day, Bhaktivinoda asked Gaur Kishor to give him Babaji initiation. But Gaur Kishor refused, feeling himself too fallen and unworthy. Sometime later, by his mystic power, he could understand that Bhaktivinoda was on his way from Godrum to ask him again. He hurried to the house of a woman of bad repute, a prostitute in Navadvip, and hid on her veranda. Bhaktivinoda could not find Babaji anywhere and had to return home again. When Gaur Kishor appeared from his hiding, he laughed loudly at being able to trick Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The third time Bhaktivinoda tried, Gaur Kishor finally consented and gave him Babaji initiation in 1908. Initiating the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Later, the Thakur sent his son, Bimal Prasad, to also take initiation. When Gaur Kishor refused, Bimal Prasad asked him why. Gaur Kishor answered, "You are such a learned scholar, and you are the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Who am I to initiate you?" But Bimal Prasad was persistent. "Please give me initiation," he begged. Finally, Gaur Kishor appeared to relent. "Let me ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If he agrees, I will give you initiation in a few days." Few days later, Bhima Prasad came back and asked Babaji if he indeed had approached Mahaprabhu. "He did not give me a direct answer," Gaur Kishor replied, "but simply said that material knowledge does not help in spiritual life." So I hope you all are able to follow and keep up. Let's move on. Bhima Prasad could understand that he was perhaps too proud of his material knowledge. He replied, "Since you are the servant of the greatest deceiver, Krishna, who, as Lord Vamana, tricked Bali Maharaj into giving away his kingdom. You yourself are expert in deception. But though you are trying to deceive me, I will not let you go. If you refuse me initiation, I will put an end to my life. Gaur Kishor Das Babaji was very pleased by the young man's humility and his sincere determination. He agreed to accept him as his one and only disciple. He gave Bhima Prasad the name Sri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das, which means servant of the lover of the daughter of King Vrishabhanu. Srimati Radharani is the daughter referred to, whose lover is Lord Krishna. Because Bhima Prasad's great learning, he was also called Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and it was under this name that he became famous. His blindness. Later on in his life, Gaur Kishor Das Babaji became blind. Both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati wanted him to go to Calcutta for treatment. But Gaur Kishor was determined not to leave the sacred land of Navadvip. When Bhaktivinoda suggested that his son would take care of him while in Calcutta, Gaur Kishor became so disturbed that he immediately ran away from the place where he was staying. By no means did he want to accept service from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Rather, he would prefer to drown himself in the river. For 45 days he was missing. Nobody knew where he was hiding. Then one day, all of a sudden, he again came to Bhaktivinoda's house. He told him, "When your son wanted to serve me, I decided to drown myself in the river. Then I realized that if I committed suicide, I would become a ghost, unable to serve the Lord. Therefore, I changed my mind." Gaur Kishor thus remained blind. He did not desire to see any more of this material world. Internally, he was very attached to Sri Radha and Krishna. Therefore, he was very careful in the way he lived, not wanting to get entangled. His final pastimes. In the year 1915, Gaur Kishor Das Babaji passed away. The day after, his only disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, came from Calcutta and found the local Vaishnavas, mostly Sahajiyas or pretenders, fighting over the dead body of his Guru Maharaj. They all wanted to build his samadhi, burial shrine, close to their homes in order to increase their reputation and their earnings. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati became extremely angry and forbade them to do anything. They, however, insisted that he could not set up the samadhi since he was only a brahmachari and not a sannyasi. Bhakti Siddhanta, who was known as the Singha Guru, Lion Guru, challenged the pretenders. If one of them had not improperly touched the body of any woman in the last 3 days, they could come forward and claim the right to establish the samadhi of his beloved spiritual master. They fell silent and without a word left one by one. The few people who stayed reminded Bhaktisiddhanta of the last wish of his Guru Maharaj. He had expressed a desire to have his dead body dragged through the streets of the holy Dham in order to be purified by the sacred dust. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati retorted, "Nobody is going to drag his body anywhere. I will carry him on my head, just like Mahaprabhu carried the dead body of Haridas Thakur." With these words, he alone embalmed the body of his beloved Guru Maharaj. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati established the samadhi of Srila Gaur Kishor Das Babaji near Navadvip on the west bank of the Ganges. When the river changed her course, the samadhi had to be moved to Chaitanya Mat in Mayapur itself. In Krishna Leela, Srila Gaur Kishor Das Babaji serves as Guna Manjari. Srila Gaur Kishor Das Babaji ki jai. So these are a few pastimes and glories of Srila Gaur Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj. I hope you enjoyed the reading and I'll see you next time. Hare Krishna.